Good morning, friends, and welcome to the Mr. Maxwell podcast. Today, we're going to talk about burnout because I'm burnt out. And burnout looks different for different people. For some people, burnout can look like having a meltdown or just, having a freak out session. For others, burnout can look like depression or just emotionally or physically shutting down. Burnout can sometimes just look like sudden incompetence, like a person who normally does very well at a task, all of a sudden they're failing and screwing it up left and right. Could be they're just burnt out. So it's been a busy few weeks for me. So last weekend, I went up to Farmville for a wedding. And that was actually the first wedding where I actually officiated the wedding, which was a lot of fun, but it was still very dysregulating. I was in a different city. I stayed in a hotel, which is fun, but also out of my normal routine. I was still dealing with a lot of pain during that weekend. I've been in a flare for a couple weeks now, and that can just be exhausting, right? Every day being in pain, being in discomfort, and then just there's moments, where I love my job, I love what I do, I love teaching, but I do hit moments of burnout, moments of exhaustion, and it's nothing that my students are doing wrong, nothing that, administration's doing wrong, like everything's just the way it is, just you get tired, right? And, and dealing with chronic fatigue, tired is like it's more of a thing. Anyway, by the way, this episode is completely unscripted. I just have some talking points, so it's gonna get really random and rambly or more than usual, so I apologize for that in advance. Anyway, so I was trying to describing how I get burnt out. For me, it has a lot to do with the intersectionality of my stimulation issues, or I can't think how to say it. So being an autistic person, dealing with my social issues, dealing with my sensory issues, those prolonged things can lead to burnout just from trying to be a functioning adult while dealing with whatever sensory issues I might have going on at the time. Living with a chronic illness, living with lupus, that can sometimes lead to burnout, just because if I'm in a flare, if I'm dealing with consistent physical pain, if every day it hurts to walk and you have to walk around, eventually it just gets exhausting and you don't want to do anything, not because you don't want to do anything, but because that moving is painful, and so you just get tired of moving because you get tired of being in pain. And so those things can just make everything else in my life that much more difficult, which can ultimately for me end up leading to burnout, because I'm just done. I'm done with dealing with sensory issues. I'm done dealing with my pain. And so just getting through day-to-day life becomes a bit too much. Even things like posting on Instagram or making my TikToks, that goes way down, and I'll either stop posting altogether or post a whole lot less, kind of just as I feel like it. And it used to be I would fight this burnout. I would try to grind my way through and just be like, I'm gonna keep going, and I'm just gonna light the candle at both ends, that hustle culture mentality that is not worth it for me. I mean, for me to fight my way through a burnout and try not to slow down, more often than not, has usually ended up with me in the hospital for some reason or another. Because either my blood pressure gets out of control, or the vertigo gets so bad that I can't walk, or I have to stay home and I can't work at all. And sometimes that is the right thing to do. So how I work my way through burnout now is I lower the bar. I lower the bar of expectation for myself, and I might not fully clean out my email inbox before I leave work that day. I might not thoroughly clean up my classroom before I leave that day. I did do this. I've hired my daughter to, who's at the same school. So before she goes into class, she comes in the morning and helps me tidy up the classroom. And at the end of the day, she helps with any little tasks I need done around the classroom. So by outsourcing some of that, and one, it gives my child a way to earn money, but two, it gives me a way to delegate some of those tasks that would just be too physically demanding while I'm in a state of burnout. Creatively, I also lower the bar, so sometimes my goal is usually to post 2 to 3 TikToks a day. Some days I post one, some days I don't post any at all. And while my goal is to post one podcast episode a week, normally I have a script written out, and this week I don't have a script. And I'm not even going to try to do any B-roll or anything on the YouTube version of this. It's just going to be me talking. And what that does is it keeps me in my routine. It allows me to still meet my goals, if you will, but just saying I did the thing and that's enough. Because my best is just to limp across the finish line, and letting that be okay. Because I would rather do an unscripted podcast episode and stay in rhythm than stop posting altogether and lose my momentum. And also, if I'm going to make this creativity thing a long-term thing, I need to find a way to make it work with the way my energy levels work. And most importantly, when I'm in a state of burnout, I tell myself and I remind myself that I'm not okay, and that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to feel run down. It's okay that I don't have any energy. It's okay that it takes everything I have just to get through the day. And so maybe all the laundry doesn't get put away for a week or two. And maybe I don't finish that book I was trying to finish reading. And maybe there are a couple of days where I get home and I just sit in my chair and play video games all day or the rest of the evening. And that's okay. And I guess I would just encourage any of you out there that are struggling with burnout, like I do, that struggle with or that deal with depression like I do, that when you're in those low moments, whether it's physically low moments because of your chronic illness like I have, or mental health low moments, that don't let yourself feel guilty. Don't berate yourself for not being able to do all of the things you want to do during this season. Just let yourself be where you are, because you really can't help it. We all are where we are, and some days we can conquer the world, and some days we can barely get through the day. And I don't know, for me personally, it's been acceptance, letting that be okay. Just my last note is patience is the key for me when dealing with burnout and depression. And I stand by that. Patience with myself and asking for that patience for those around me. Anyway, so that's really it. I'm going to stop here. But I'm wondering, what do you do? How do you handle bouts of depression? How do you handle moments of burnout, whether it's like an autistic version or a neurodivergent version of burnout where you were just overstimulated or too much anxiety and you just can't deal with anything, or burnout due to your chronic illness, or just maybe you don't have a chronic illness, maybe you're not neurodivergent but you still deal with burnout. What does that look like for you, and how do you deal with it? If you're watching on YouTube, please let me know in the comments. If you're listening on the podcast, find me on TikTok or Instagram at Mr_Maxwell16. I'm on Twitter, but I'm not sure for how much longer. So yeah, I don't know about that one. Anyway, all right, friends, it's time for your next adventure. I'll miss you. Cheers.